Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello, everybody. This is the fourth episode of the People Who Help People podcast. Today's guest is Carl Bradford. Carl Bradford is the founder and executive job search strategist behind Bradford Consulting, where they use or have perfected the performance-based hiring method introduced to Carl by Lou Adler. I'm going to ask Carl to tell us more about that. Carl's been doing this for a good while, over 50 years, and I think he's got some great lessons to share with us today. Carl, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Craig. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm looking forward to our discussion today as we talk about some of the work that I do.
I look forward to that as well. So, Carl, let's start at the top. Tell us about Bradford Consulting, who you are, what you do, how big your firm is, and your typical clients.
Okay. Well, Bradford Consulting is a solopreneur at this point in time. It's just me and a few virtual colleagues that I draw on from time to time to help with the business. We're really laser focused within the space of recruiting and hiring. We start with a job opening and we take that all the way through to onboarding and the first 6 to 12 months. We use a process that we refer to as performance-based hiring. As Craig said, that was perfected and developed by my friend and colleague, Lou Adler. And Lou and I have known each other since 1998. He and I still work together every week on different projects. So at any rate, performance-based hiring is a true business process that is an end-to-end process, all built from the first opening a job rec, all the way to the hiring, onboarding, and beyond. It's an easy transfer into a performance management system as you get into the onboarding and the first 6 to 12 months. It's a little different process, and it actually begins from a different perspective or viewpoint. And I'd be happy to describe that, Craig, if that would be what you'd like to do.
Absolutely. I'd love to get into that. Before we do, you mentioned you're a solopreneur, but
Yes.
you have some virtual colleagues. So it sounds like you bring in help, maybe on a contract basis as you need it. Also, it sounds like you do more than just search. It sounds like you consult and you help perhaps companies with their search efforts, and not just as a retained or contingent on basis, but also there's some consulting elements there. So it sounds like you're teaching a system as well.
Yes, in fact, that's what I really like doing and prefer doing. It's when I come alongside the client and get involved in their process from when we first describe what the job spec is going to be. And I can be as involved as the client would like. I prefer where I go in, help them develop the performance-based job description itself, and then help them with sourcing, help them with interviewing, assessment, salary negotiations, and onboarding, et cetera, the whole gamut of that linear process. That's what I like to do, as opposed to being just an outside recruiter that's tasked with furnishing candidates. I like to be involved in the whole thing. And we do that usually on a pilot basis so that we can actually tweak it, test it, and make it successful inside an organization. And from there, we can then roll it out on a broader basis to other elements of the organization.
I like that idea. So you're teaching them to fish. Once they learn that process, do they still need your help, or is it go in, help them, and typically they say, "Thank you, Carl, we've got it from here"?
It can be either way. It depends upon the size of the company and the internal resources. A lot of times, small and medium businesses don't have any HR function at all. Sometimes they have an HR generalist that may not be a specialist in recruitment. In those cases, they're tasked with other HR assignments that really don't allow them the time. So it's on a time-to-time basis. Also, I find that as my clients hire new managers or people get promoted into management ranks, it's good for me to come back alongside those new hiring officials and help them understand and work through the process. And we can do that as much or as little as they need. It's almost like having an expert fractional recruitment specialist on call, on speed dial.
So it sounds like you have a tried and true method, yet in the growth of any small business, they get to that point where the next hire is a critical hire, or they just want to get it right from here on out. So you come in, you teach them a process, and sometimes you'll come back and reinforce that process,
Yes.
Reinforce the use of that process.
That's true. That's a good way of putting it.
Okay. Tell me about technology and how it's changing the recruitment process, and both how it's changing things, but then how it's also reinforcing the need to return to or to integrate performance-based hiring with this pervasive technology that's invading the recruiting space.
We've been doing a lot of work, and I'm working hand to hand with Lou Adler on this on a weekly basis of infusing AI into the business process of hiring, which in our case is performance-based hiring. So we found that one of the biggest paradigm shifts required in performance-based hiring is a shift from what I call the boring HR job description. It's a list of jobs, duties, responsibilities, years of experience, etc. That was never intended and should have never been intended for recruiting. That would be analogous to me using a spec sheet to sell you a beautiful TV. It just doesn't work. So basically, what we do is go back and define what successful performance looks like in a series of performance objectives and KPOs. And that becomes the core of our recruiting and transcends all the way into onboarding and beyond. And so by using AI, we are able to show that process so much better than trying to teach it. It's such a paradigm shift for people to think of, to make that shift on the front side. And yet it's the core of success for performance-based hiring, because we're using success measurements as a method or measurement for hiring during that process. So with AI, we can not only create the job description in that format, we can then translate that into some marketing style recruitment messaging, which is a tremendous asset. And we can even take that further using AI to develop a job specific interview guide, an assessment tool, and interview scorecard. And we even take that into the salary negotiation and reference checking as well. And that document then, once a person begins the onboarding process, can be used for onboarding, and they're already set up for what success on the job looks like. They already know what the job is. There's no surprises. We try to avoid, gee, that's not the person I hired, or the candidate saying, that's not the job I thought I accepted. So we make that very clear from day one, and AI has allowed us to do that at scale quickly and make it very job specific all the way through the process. So that kind of speaks to how we're using technology to really improve that part of the process.
I love it. It sounds to me that you've taken a tried and true process. Let's get out of the mode of just creating a job description that doesn't have that success criteria built in, post and pray, to let's be mindful of building those success measures in, smartly use AI to help us quickly tailor it, but then follow that through the process. We're interviewing for that success criteria. We're explaining that success criteria in the interview so that the eventual successful candidate knows what success looks like in this role. You're even building marketing into that net we cast to find candidates who are drawn to those success measures, say, I want to work for this firm because they tell me how I can be successful. And ultimately, like you said, it carries into the onboarding of, I already know what to expect, and let's put that into my performance expectations in this role.
Yeah.
I love everything you just said, and I want to dig deeper. Let me start by asking a tactical question. So you're using AI and it's making all of this work easier and more predictably and more reliably. Did you change the way you charge for your services? Because AI can do things quicker. I'm assuming you're not charging by the hour. Are you charging by you're hiring me to deliver a better process. I just happen to use AI to help you implement that process. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. We use AI to help us, and it's a teaching tool as well. And one of those virtual partners from the work that I would be doing is actually to bring Lou's organization into, because he has a training program. We've actually trained people all over the world, from corporations, the very largest corporations, to very small firms. And my role with him can be looked at from one standpoint. He's actually a client. On the other standpoint, but I actually am part-time on his staff, I guess you could say. And we use that extensively for training, and it allows us to actually train at scale whatever we need to do, and then design a recruitment project around that. And so that's kind of how we go about the training aspect piece of that.
Excellent. So several nuggets I heard there where others in our business can have a takeaway or could model your success. One, they found a system from a partner, from Lou Adler, that you could integrate into your offering, into your business. Two, you have a true partnership with Lou in that you're evolving not just his product, but your offering as well.
Yes.
And then three, virtual members of your team come from Lou's organization, and you're a virtual member of Lou's organization.
Yes.
And that partnership continues. So even though it's not an official, it's synergistic, and it's making both of your offerings stronger.
Yes. Absolutely.
I love
Absolutely. That's the way we put it together, and we've been doing that. And a part of the process too is companies can actually become certified in the process. They're HRCI, SHRM, and some of the other HR organizations will issue credits for that. And in order to do that, that certification process really spans that whole recruitment cycle from start to finish, divided up into four pieces. What ends up being many case studies for an actual recruiting assignment or position they're recruiting for. And I do all of the worldwide certification for that, which means that I actually am evaluating work product from a single recruiter, for whether it be for an extremely large organization or a small one. I actually see their work product as they submit it to me for certification. And part of that responsibility is either approve and certify that piece, or saying it just isn't up to snuff, so to speak. And so then I coach them through that. And that transcends into that earlier role that I'm talking about. I'm very accustomed to coming alongside a recruiter and saying, your job message just isn't going to do the trick. Here's what we need to do to fix that. And let's rewrite that together and let you run an A/B test, for example, and let's try a couple of variations of that and see what works. And as I said, I've done that from the officer suite down to hourly exempt roles. And as a matter of fact, along that line, I'm ready to roll out a new product that I've done where I've actually brought this down into the skilled trades area, whether you're talking about a machinist, an HVAC technician, welder, whatever of the skilled trades, and I can do the whole process and use AI into that. And I'm about ready to release that product.
Terrific. When will that be available?
It's available as of today. I just haven't marketed it yet. I'll be starting to market that next week.
Congratulations. Available today.
Yes.
So Lou, what's the name of this system, and what are the three key benefits for somebody who would want to use that in the skilled trades?
I'd say for the skilled trades, it's basically the same thing as attracting the top 25%. The top people like to be challenged. They like challenging work. They like to feel that they're in a culture and in a business that where it's beneficial not only to them but to somebody else. They like to be treated well. They like to have equipment that's up to date. They want to be paid fairly. There are a lot of things about the skilled trades, and I've built that into a body of knowledge that sets in behind my AI agent that I put together, so that we can take an existing job description with a little bit of input from a client, like, why would a top person want to work there? I could unfold that in and kick that process off, create a performance-based job description, and once we tweak that and get agreement, then we can create the marketing recruitment piece and the whole process on down the line from assessment, etc. And so that's some of the things that it's going to solve. It's designed to attract the top people. For example, if you took let's say a CNC machinist and put that into a Indeed.com or LinkedIn's job system, every ad that comes back is very similar. Job duties, etc. It's all about what the company is looking for and requires. What we do is flip that script and say our ad will look different. The first 2 or 3 lines will be a marketing style hook to hook interest, and it's going to be all about why a good person or a top person would want that job. And intertwined in that, we intermix all the requirements done in a marketing style. It's going to be a refreshing take on that.
I think that's brilliant. Everybody knows we're in a tight labor market. Everybody's competing for the same talent. There's not enough good CNC machinists out there. And yet, when a company invests in your tool, they're also investing in being worthy of that top talent. That it's not just a pitch. It's a commitment. It's a commitment. You're the best, and we want to be the best, and provide the best environment for you to continue to succeed. And at the same time, it raises the bar for the whole organization, it sounds like.
Yes, that's true. I can't really impact too much their past reputation. Yeah, but I can certainly help them recruit top people if their company's worthy of attracting and engaging that person. We can show them how to get the message in front of people, and it's not just with a job post. We can then move that into passive candidate outreach if we needed to do that.
Sure, but again, it sounds to me like the small and medium-sized businesses that want to use your system are going to be the ones that want to be the best or better than they've been.
Yes.
And we all get better with each strong hire we bring aboard. So I love how you've continued the success that the performance-based hiring system brings into a new environment in a tight market where we're all competing for talent by saying, here's why you should consider us. Mm-hmm. And here's how we're going to attract you to us, as opposed to, like you said, standing out in this sea of job descriptions that all sound the same.
Yes, so, that's exactly.
And you use AI to do that. So tell us a little bit more. If somebody else is looking to bring more AI into their operations, into their consulting business, the things that they build out for their clients, what do you recommend they do? How do they get smarter? Where do they start?
Well, when I look at AI per se, I only look at it through the lens of recruiting. In so doing, I absorb periphery information. But basically, it's being able to embrace AI and use it as a tool, not see it as a threat. AI, like any tool, is best used by a practitioner within a specific area of expertise, so they'll know what outputs coming from the AI tool, how to then coach it, tweak it, and continue to refine it so that they get the output that they know is quality. And once they get it, they know that's quality, then it'll allow them to use that tool over and over to do the heavy lifting for repetitive type of processes. And to me, the only way to do that is dip your toe in. And, we use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and a few others. Where I personally use it is I use a lot of ChatGPT to build what they call GPT agents, where we actually create a prompt and a JSON file, which is a little bit of technical stuff. And we create that so that now I can cycle back, for example, whether it was a skilled machinist or it was a VP of customer service, I can feed in the starting point. We usually feed in their boring HR job description. And because of what we've got built into the background by our own knowledge base, it'll create something on the fly that's worthy of immediate discussion and tweaking to be sure that we have it right. So that's kind of how I do it. And I just had to, get my toes in the water and do it. For those that don't have the time or not so inclined to do that, as long as it's in the area of hiring, I can help.
Excellent. That makes a lot of sense. I love what you said there. AI is best used by a practitioner with a specific set of expertise. It's like any tool. Someone gave me the analogy the other day. If I give a circular saw and a chisel to my 10-year-old daughter, she's probably going to chop one of her fingers off. If I give it to a skilled craftsman, he's going to create a beautiful piece of furniture.
Absolutely.
So it amplifies those skills we already have. But you followed up with, you have to tweak it, you have to train it, you have to take the output that speeds the process but doesn't complete the process. It's a resource but not the source. And then you apply it where you have your specific expertise. And it's clear that you've jumped in, like you said, put your toes in the water and embraced it. And I love that you mentioned JSON files. This is my fourth podcast, and you're the first person to mention JSON. So for those who haven't learned what a JSON file is yet, go look it up in ChatGPT and learn more about it yourself.
There you go.
So, all right, terrific. Carl, what else would you like to chat about today, if anything?
One of the things that I know you had asked about earlier in your email exchange about some of the problems that I see in the marketplace. And
yes.
If we relate that back to AI, one of the things that Lou and I are working on a project the other day, had a meeting going very similar to this, and a recruiter for one of the largest global companies in the world happened to be engaging with us in a conversation. And I won't mention the name, but if I did, you would definitely know who I was talking about. And the recruiter was looking for, I think it was some sort of a business analyst, as I recall. But he posted the job, and because they're a well-known brand, all of a sudden, a lot of people want to work there. Well, within a matter of hours, he had 200 candidates, and in a matter of a day and a half or two, he had 600. And finally, at 900, he said, "I've got to turn this off." And so he turned it off. Now he's sitting there with 900 candidates, almost the opposite problem that we've been discussing. So now what does he do? Is he going to look at 900 candidates? Probably not. He probably doesn't have the time to do that. So one of the things that we advised him to do is, and this is something we teach a lot of clients, is look for what we call achiever terms in resumes. And top achievers will usually have a certain set of skill terms. For example, if I was looking for a salesperson, they might mention awards, recognition, President's Club, etc. Engineers might mention certain societies and white papers. There are certain terms that we know to look for. And so we advised him to start sorting on a set of achiever terms that would be done. So he was able to whittle that down substantially. One thing he didn't do, because he did it before he talked to us again, is I'm not quite sure how he got it down to, I think, about 20 people. Interviewed 20, selected 4, and they were in final interviews at the point we were having this discussion. But one of the things I would have advised him to do once they whittle that down is communicate back with a subset of that people had achiever terms, and just say, one of our key objectives in this job is X, Y, and Z, which is the KPO. Send me back half-page write-up of what you've done that's most similar to that, and then tell me what the outcome would be. Now, there'll be some people who'll be too lazy to do that, so they select themselves out of that. Out of that, you get back very specific feedback for something that's very important to that particular job, and it'll help you narrow down even further. So we would have advised him to do something like that. So we got a few little tricks like that up our sleeves and along the way that we utilize. But that's a kind of a look at the other side of things from a problem perspective. It's just one that I thought of.
Sure. Too often as recruiters, to your point, the systems have gotten good on both sides of the equation, both
Mm-hmm.
for us seeking talent and for talent seeking the next opportunity. That I'm not surprised that it ballooned to 900, especially at a quality organization. But I like the concept of probably using an AI tool to help us find those achiever terms,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe supplementing that process with, we'd like to ask you for one additional input and look for those specific things that we know are important in the
Right.
performance-based process.
Yes.
You've mentioned KPO a couple times. Could you explain for those who aren't familiar with that term what you mean by KPO?
Yeah, KPO is a key performance objective. We use that term because it tends to be more familiar across the spectrum of people. For years, we've referred to, when we develop a performance-based job description, as a performance objective, but it is a task-oriented statement of responsibility or success, and we always start those out with an action verb. Let's see if we can pick a job here. Let's say it was a director of sales you're going to be hiring, and their responsibility is for the eastern half of the U.S., and they don't have a presence yet in the western U.S. So one of the key KPOs is, within X period of time, develop a go-to-market plan for the western part of the United States that accomplishes X, Y, and Z. In other words, and we would refine that and say it a little slicker, but it's basically defining something that's key to that job, and then assigning some kind of a time frame, some kind of a measurement metric, and where we can, we also try to work in an environmental aspect, which might be something like, without, it usually is a resource kind of thing. It's usually where not a lot of information is done, or maybe you're tasked with turning around a major client, and the environmental situation there is that all of a sudden you've got a hostile client. So that's the environment. So we try to tweak it like that. So for us, a KPO, usually a job will have anywhere from 4 to 6 key KPOs. And within that, several of those will often have maybe subparts A, B, and C that are a part of that. Also, when we look at a job, every job has some kind of a get acquainted, ramp up time. It could be learn something, learn policies, meet a certain group of people, develop a plan or an assessment of some sort. So there's always something there, and it makes for very good interviewing. In our interviewing process, we haven't talked about, but I'll just briefly address that. We only use 2 questions, 2 variants of questions. And it actually, I don't know if this will show up on our, but it's actually, the process is on this little card.
Hold it just a little higher.
Yeah. How's that?
Right there. Okay.
All right.
And flip it over. Same height.
It's just the.
Perfect.
Okay, and but basically, it's to state the performance objective, and the first question is, tell me what you've done that's comparable to that, and then we apply a technique, what we call the drill down technique: who, what, when, how come, what did you learn, what would you do different, etc. And then the other is take a KPO. The other question is, we've got to open up this Western territory, and we need to get it done within the first 12 months. Tell me how you'd go about getting that done. And it's really a business discussion. It's rather than a hypothetical behavioral interview question that says, tell me about a time. That's not a good use of behavioral interviewing. Let's discuss a real key component of what success looks like on that job. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people who embrace behavioral interviewing is they tend to ask those, tell me about a time, give me an example, out of context, out of general context of what success on the job looks like, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Of course. Tell us how you did something similar. Start with the key performance objective. Tell us how you did something similar. Great. Past performance can equal future success or indicative of future success.
Yes.
But then turn into the how would you, And you added a piece. The added piece is that environmental aspect, right? It's as much as we want to put the perfect face forward, let's set the stage. Here's the environment. Here's why this is critical. Here's what we need to do. Tell us how you would. That's more real for them, and it gives us a better answer for what we're looking for. So
I like to think of the interview not as an interview, but as a business discussion or a
I do
business
too.
meeting.
I do too. I've always preferred business discussions to the structured but less impactful interview, pure
Yeah,
interview. So, yeah.
absolutely.
So you mentioned that the AI tool helps your clients not only frame those key performance objectives, but also structure the interview around them. Tell us a little bit more about that.
How the you want to know more how AI helps to structure the interview? Okay, once you get the performance-based job description success KPOs done, then using the two question type format, you can then develop we develop actually two pieces. One's a phone screen, usually for a quick overview, and we've got some things we build in there, and then a more detailed face-to-face interview. We can even take that down into, let's say you're going to have a panel interview and look at the different roles that people will have on the panel. And within the rules and confines of panel interviewing, as we teach it, we will assign questions so we're not bombarding the candidate with exactly the same question. You'll have somebody with maybe an IT job, maybe the IT manager is better at some component, and maybe he's got a specialist software person that really can dig into the code piece. And so you kind of divide that up, and it can be done on any role like that. And that's how AI helps us then take that and quickly, once we get a little input from the client, we can develop that. And then from that, we use Lou's scorecard, which has various factors in there that can be tied to the job. We're in the process of pulling that all together from a technology standpoint. We're hoping to find a technology company that might want to partner with us on that in some way. So, because neither one of us are software people, but we can use AI to write code, and so we do that.
Terrific. So, Carl, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation today. I love how you fused a tried and true method of performance based hiring with key performance objectives that are woven through the process from when we start thinking about creating that job requisition to building it a different way, how we market the position, how we interview for the position, all the way through onboarding to ensure candidate success. Successful candidates are successful in the role as well. And I love how you fused AI in there to make the tools stronger, to make us stronger as hiring managers and interviewers, and to ensure that we have the outcome that we're seeking from the process. Last, I love how you described the partnership that you have with Lou Adler and how both of you are continuing to refine the tools you've developed that work well and have been time proven, and marrying that with the current technology that's available to make your offering even stronger. I'll close with, if folks today have heard things that they like and they'd like to get in touch with you or like to get in touch with Lou, how do they do so? How do they find out more about you, your process, or make some of these processes available to them?
Probably a good place to start with me, and I'm a little easier to get in touch with. Lou's off doing his kind of nerdy thing, so at this point in time. But you can reach me at Carl. Carl is spelled CARL at bradfordconsulting.com. You'll also find my website is bradfordconsulting.com. You can reach out either way and get in touch with me, and be happy to visit with anybody. And I'd be happy just to give you my 2 cents. If you've got a problem that you want to talk about, you're not going to get charged. If you call me, we'll talk about it. If it makes sense for us to work together, we will. But certainly feel free, and we can bat around some potential solutions that might help with whatever issue that you're having.
And that reinforces what you said earlier. You love to coach people. You love to
Yes.
make people more successful. And it's clear you've built a successful career around doing so.
Yes, yes, sir.
Terrific.
Yeah.